Hello everybody and welcome to the show today. Today we're diving in, we're talking about something called fundability. We're talking about exactly what it takes for you to get approved for loans, credit lines, and for credit cards. So if you, by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what the formula is that lenders, credit issuers are looking at to really determine if you should be approved for financing, such as credit cards, financing including credit lines and loans, or you shouldn't be approved. And you're going to know exactly what you need to correct to improve your fundability to make you more lendable. So for those that don't know me, my name's Ty Crandall. I'm actually the CEO at Credit Suite, and at Credit Suite, this is exactly what we do. We help you get capital by helping you improve your fundability to become more lendable, also by helping you build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your personal social, and by helping you access all financing in one place. So if we can help you along the way here, give us a ring, 877-600-2487. That's 877-600-2487, or email us info@creditsuite.com. So when we talk about what fundability is, we're basically talking about your business's ability to get money, simply put. You can make it harder or easier for your business to get money, really depending on where you stand when it comes to fundability. So a lot of this is in your hands. How you set up your basic business foundation is going to determine how fundable you are. So let me give you a graphic illustration of exactly what I'm talking about. This is our graphic illustration of fundability, and so far to date, we found over 125 fundability factors. These are factors that are used to determine whether you should be approved for credit, financing, or not approved. So we've all applied for a credit card before, and we either get that automated, automatic, immediate approval, or we get that dreaded message that we'll hear by mail in 7 to 10 days. Well, when that happens, these are these computer algorithms going through and checking our fundability. If we meet the fundability requirements, we get that automated approval. If we don't meet the fundability requirements, then what typically happens is we get that message we'll hear by mail in 7 to 10 days. That application then gets pushed to for a manual review. Somebody manually reviews the application, and as you know, typically 9.9 out of 10 times that review results in a denial. So the key here to getting approved for as much credit financing as you can is to understand as many of these fundability factors as you can, set up your business from the beginning as fundable as you can get it, or now that you learn these things, go back and make the corrections knowing what lenders and credit issuers are looking at so you can set your business up where you're fundable. Now, we don't have time today to jump into 125 of these, but we're going to dive into several of the main things you should be looking at. So a business starts with no credit profile, right? But therefore, what's on your application is all that's reviewed for approval. So your application must be very strong. So look, as you build your business credit, you have a little bit more leeway, right? There's these other factors are less important. And this is the same way in the consumer world. If you have a 820 consumer credit score with tons of established credit, mortgages, car loans, credit cards, $20,000, $30,000 limit credit cards, your ability to get approved for financing is much greater than if you have a very thin credit profile or no credit profile. If you have a thin or no credit profile, well then what's on your application gets scrutinized a lot more because you don't have a strong credit profile to back you. Same thing in the business world. When you don't have business credit established, then what you're putting on that application becomes very important to get approved because you don't have a strong credit profile that's backing your business. Well, most companies fail in the first year, and half of all companies fail in the first 5 years, 2/3 in the first 10 years. So as a result, new businesses don't seem fundable to lenders. Inherently, you're fighting an uphill battle because especially in the beginning of a business, so much risk is involved with lending money or issuing credit to businesses that are in a startup phase, the 1 to 5 year time frame, that it's very, very, very difficult to get approved for a lot of this credit financing. That means you're fighting this uphill battle because you automatically don't seem fundable to lenders. This is why it's so important that you understand what they're looking for and establish this fundability so you have the best chance of getting approved. So the first step into fundability is to look at your business industry. So some industries are considered more risky than others. And when it comes to traditional funding sources, well then added risk can mean one of two things really. Underwriting guidelines that are more strict, okay, or you just absolutely being restricted altogether. So we see a couple categories here. Based on the industry that you're in, you very well can come in and be more stringent underwriting guidelines is what you face, or you might get an immediate decline that then gets pushed for a manual review, depending on how risky your actual industry is. So one of the things you need to look at is NAICS codes, okay? Now, NAICS codes are basically the IRS's way of identifying the industry that you're in. You might be familiar with SIC codes, okay? The actual classification category that used to be in effect, but there was only 16 different industry categories for businesses. Well, as more businesses have come about in the United States, the IRS developed this NAICS code, which is a deeper dive into the actual industry that you're in. Here's why this matters. I see failing credit scores on business credit reports all the time because they're listing you as a high-risk industry. So what a lot of people don't realize is that you choose your NAICS code. You're the one that tells the IRS what it is. Now, if you're not telling the IRS what it is or telling other people, then it's kind of automatically selected for you. So let me give you an example. When you file your tax returns, you are selecting the industry that the business is in. And in doing so, the IRS is then determining the NAICS code that you have selected based on the industry you've chosen. So I always tell people that if you don't know, if you haven't chosen your NAICS code, you need to. You need to go do research of what the NAICS codes are. You need to find the best NAICS code that fits your business, preferably one that doesn't reflect you're in a high-risk industry, and that's exactly the code you need to use on your IRS tax returns and on your business credit reports, and when you apply for any kind of credit financing. So for example, we at Credit Suite are a software company. We chose an NAICS code that reflects that we are software, because if you think about it, we have a couple choices. We could be a financial services company or we could be software. We're choosing the software category because it makes us lower risk when it comes to bank accounts, merchant accounts, and financing. So then we make sure that on our tax returns that we use that NAICS code. On any application we fill out, we say exactly the definition of the industry that the NAICS code relates to and give the NAICS code. And we also monitor our business credit reports to make sure they have the correct NAICS code, and if they don't, we've challenged it before and had them remove other NAICS codes that are not applicable to our industry, so we only have the one we want to have. Now when we're applying for loans, merchant accounts, and bank accounts, it's very difficult for them to say we're in an industry other than the one we are, because our tax returns, our credit reports, everything reflects the NAICS code we have chosen. So you need to choose your industry, you need to choose your NAICS code, and then in doing so, you need to use that on tax returns. Make sure your business credit reports reflect that, and always use that same number for industry and the industry that the NAICS code describes on all of your applications. Okay, a lot of us do this loosely. So if you go to open a bank account, they say what industry you are, and you say consulting, for example, right? I think a lot of people are guilty of this. You can't do that. Before you start the business or in the early stages, or if you haven't already, go and find out what your NAICS code is and use that moving forward when you fill anything out, so then that way you have the best chance of being lower risk. So you also want to check with your Secretary of State to set up your actual business name. Now keep in mind, if your business name reflects you're in a high-risk industry, well then that could hurt you no matter what your NAICS code is. So let's use us as an example, right? So we face that scrutiny. Our name is Credit Suite. The fact that credit is in our name, we automatically are put into financial services, and automatically we face scrutiny because we are in a high-risk industry, because all accountants and attorneys and real estate agents and mortgage brokers, anybody in financial services is considered to be high risk. So you want to try to choose a name that does not reflect that you are in a high-risk industry. So for example, Chico's Bail Bonds can be renamed as Chico's, okay, and if you look at this is completely legal and ethical. They're not misrepresenting what they do based on their name, but by removing bail bonds, which is at a high-risk industry, they make it easier to get approved. Now you have to think about this. If you don't do this and you fill out an application as Chico's Bail Bonds, then what happens is the computers that you're applying through are automatically picking up that your name reflects that you're in a high-risk industry, and that alone will get your application flagged. If you have enough of these flags in the system, then that's when it gets pushed out for a manual review. So that's important to note here. Everything I'm telling you here, if you didn't do everything I'm telling you, you still may get some approvals and you'll get some declines. So an example there is Walmart. Walmart will not let you use a home address on your business application for credit with them, or it will get you an automatic decline. But Staples will. So again, by following these steps, you have the best chance of getting approved for the most credit financing. Some won't turn you down just because your name is Chico's Bail Bonds. Others automatically will. So you want to make sure that all these things are in line, and if you're looking at this and go, hey, My name is Chico's Bail Bonds. I didn't have a problem getting approved. You might not have had a problem, but the next application you very well might, because that credit issuer, that lender has an issue with this and their systems are looking at this while other systems may not. So keep in mind, some of these are very applicable to some sources and not others, and it's the opposite. Some of these other factors are very applicable to those same sources that didn't care about some other things, such as your industry code, while others might not care as much. Okay, so your business address. A business address must be a real brick and mortar building. It must be a deliverable physical address, which means it cannot be a P.O. box, it cannot be a UPS address, and you should be really reserved about using home addresses. Yes, some sources will still approve you with the home address, but there's plenty of other sources as I just described, like Walmart, that will not. The other problem you face here is that you are now seeing Dun & Bradstreet put Google Street Views of your business location on your business credit report. So the problem there is if you don't want a commercial lender pulling your credit report and seeing a picture of your house with a car in the front yard, then you probably want to choose an address other than your actual home address. So don't use UPS, don't use P.O. boxes, use a real physical business address. If you don't have one or don't need a business address that's physical, then get a virtual address. Virtual addresses are where you could rent the mail address of a big location without physically paying rent or leasing that actual space. Okay, so that can really help you a lot if you're doing that as well. Okay, so keep in mind these things. Virtual address like Regis, DaVinci, Alliance, and Alliance is our choice. If you go to creditsuite.com/virtual, you'll find a really cool deal with Alliance, and that's who we work with, and we love them. And we've tried all these virtual address solutions. So this is a good address alternative if you don't have or need a real physical address. So you need to have a fax number as well, even if it's an e-fax. Okay, nowadays it's so easy to get e-faxes, which means your phone number can be your fax number. And when somebody sends a fax there, then it automatically you can receive a fax or you can receive a call there. Well, you need to have a fax number because if an application asks for it, you don't want to leave that blank. You also want to avoid home phone numbers and mobile phone numbers. Okay, if you're putting a home phone or a mobile phone on your business application as your business phone number, that's almost an immediate way to get you declined because all of these lenders and credit issuers, their computers pick up the designation of the phone number. It's either a voice over IP, it's a business number, it's a mobile phone, it's a home phone. You don't want to apply and then them find out it's a home phone number. That's a really quick way to get yourself denied. You also need to make sure that you have a toll-free number, and you want to get that phone number listed with 411. There's a company called listyourself.net that allows you to list yourself. We spend $30 a month for all of our clients there because it's so important. When a 411 listing is one of the basic fundamental fundability requirements that lenders and credit issuers look at, and the reason they look at 411 listings is because you can't fake them. You can't go to 411.com, which by the way is not 411, and list your own phone number. It doesn't work that way. So unless you find a diamond in the rough like List Yourself that nobody even knows about that lets you list your own phone number, then you're typically going to have to wait to be picked up by Yelp and Yahoo and Bing before they'll actually get that information to 411. So this is just a real good pre-screening check that lenders and credit issuers look at to determine if you are established or not. And as I mentioned, you want to get that toll-free number. You need to have a business bank account strictly set up for your business. It helps at tax time. It helps not commingling funds. It makes it easier to reduce the risk of an audit. Okay, and it helps you separate personal and business funds. So you need to have that business bank account open because, again, the business bank account open date will sometimes be used to really look at how established your business is. Okay, I can't tell you how important that is. Meaning, let's say you buy a shelf corporation, well then the bank account open date becomes very important because anytime there's an ownership change in an organization, lenders and credit issuers tend to look at the date that the bank account was open versus the date the entity was open, which is why you do not want to ever buy shelf corporations. Okay, you also need to be looking into the future. Okay, the future means you need to think about other kind of financing that you're going to want to get from the banking system. So set up your business bank account the right way for loan approval. So for example, when it comes to getting bank loans, a loan from Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo for your business, including SBA loans, well then before you ever apply, you want to make sure you have $10,000 at least on average balance in your bank account for 90 days. Now, let me clarify. This doesn't matter. If you're applying for all these online lenders and alternative financing, it doesn't matter. If you're applying for business credit, it doesn't matter. The only time this matters is if you're applying through the big banks like Bank of America and Chase, because they have this internal bank rating system that's used that very few people even know about. Okay. Matter of fact, if you Google this, you're going to find like entrepreneur articles that we've written on this topic because there's so little information about this. But this only matters if you're applying for a loan through the big banks. Okay. So also, you want to make sure that you have as many bank account types open as possible. So a money market, a savings, a checking account, those type of things help you. And then also manage your bank responsibly, okay? You want to make sure that you have more money going in than going out. You want to make sure you have a bunch of deposits instead of just a few major deposits. You want to avoid NSFs. All those things become very, very, very important. Now, when you apply for business credit, they're oftentimes going to ask for a bank reference, and that's why you need to have a business bank account open, because even though they're not going to verify these things for credit cards, they are going to want to see that you have a bank reference. And if you don't have a business bank account, you're not going to have a reference to give them of somebody they could talk to at your actual bank. So whether you're applying for loans or credit, having the business bank account is important. How you manage the bank account matters a lot when it comes to loans. Having a bank account open for the business matters a lot when it comes to actually getting credit. Some other things I want to mention here along the line of fundability, you need to keep in mind that you have a check systems credit report as well. My advice is go to creditsweet.com/check systems, CHEXSYSTEMS, Check Systems. And on our page, you can order a copy of your credit report from Check Systems for free. You can get your credit report. You can put freezes on your credit report. Everything from creditsweet.com/check systems. So you should know that you have that other secret bank account or credit report that looks at how you manage your bank accounts. Your time in business. So again, a business that's been open longer has a much better chance of getting approved for credit and financing. Okay. So as a result of that, you really need to make sure you open that bank account very early in the process. Okay, that way you get credit for the longevity of your business. You want to get your free EIN. You only want to get it from irs.gov. There's plenty of people out there that try to make themselves look like the IRS when they're really not. And the problem there is you'll get all the way through the process and they'll try to charge you money to set up the EIN. The EIN is 100% free, but only if you go to the right place, which is irs.gov. So you've got to make sure that you do that, and you also really want to consider the entity type that you're choosing. Okay, if you're choosing a corporation or an LLC, well then that's going to give you the best chance of separating you from the business and separating your liability. If you're an entity like a sole proprietorship, well then you got a lot of problems because you are the business, which means if the business gets sued, you get sued. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an attorney and this isn't legal advice, but that is what happens. When you and the business are one and the same, then you can get sued when the business gets sued because there is no separation. Plus, it's hard to build business credit and separate personal guarantees because you and the business are one and the same. This is why if you really want to separate that liability, you really need to choose a corporation or an LLC. That gives you the best chance of separating that liability. You also need to make sure that all listings show the same name, address, phone number, etc. Your Secretary of State records, your IRS records, the credit reports that you get from the business credit reporting agencies, what's on your website, what's on yellowpages.com, what's in your Google listing. It all needs to be the same information. Believe it or not, more than half of all loan applications are denied because of incongruencies right here, which means that your application didn't get denied because you don't have the revenue or credit. It got denied because the address that you chose to put on the application was different than what was on the Secretary of State records. This is one of the basic searches that we do in the very beginning with clients to make sure that their fundability is lined up. Is the stuff that's online all congruent with what they're putting on an application? More times than not, it's not. And more times than not, when we correct that one factor, they turn around and get approved for loans and credit cards they previously got denied for. It's mind-blowing to me how many people put different information on applications than what's on their Secretary of State. They set up that business at the Secretary of State. They then make changes to the name, the spelling, the address, the phone number. They never update the Secretary of State records, and they don't realize that lenders are verifying Secretary of State against what's on the application. They get denied. They never know why. They go to another lender. Same outcome, same outcome, same outcome. They come to us. We look at this. We find a discrepancy. We change it, and they immediately turn around and get approved. So again, a lot of factors to tie into fundability. This congruency is one of the biggest ones because more than half of loan applications are denied because of those kind of incongruencies. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about this, this because I already talked about SIC codes and NAICS codes already and why that's important, but we will talk a little bit about your website. Okay, it's very important that lenders and credit issuers find everything they need to find about your business on your website. Okay, if they don't, then they're going to go looking other places for the information, which you don't want to have happen. So if you don't have a website set up, well, then go to a place like templatemonster.com to buy a cheap template, and then go to a place like upwork.com to put somebody up to hire it for you. Of course, this is not what I recommend. We have a company that is called custommarketer.com, and custommarketer.com helps our clients set up websites that are very affordable. But I will tell you that if you want the cheapest way possible, you could go to templatemonster.com and use Upwork, and probably for a couple $100 have a good looking professional website up and running. So it gives you an alternative option there. You also need to make sure that you're using a professional email address as well. Stay away from Yahoo, AOL, Gmail, Hotmail. Your business email address that you're putting on loan applications and credit applications should be the same domain as your actual website domain. So if you look at my email is info@creditsuite.com. My domain is creditsuite.com. The two are one and the same. That is what you want. You need that congruency for your email address and your website. I can't tell you how many people get denied because they're using Gmail email addresses on applications. Don't even think about that. Okay, if you want to use a Gmail email address because it's more accessible to you, then get a business address and forward it to that Gmail address. But on applications for credit financing, always make sure that you have a domain or a URL domain ending that's consistent with your URL. So again, info@creditsuite.com and creditsuite.com is a perfect example. Okay, so your business license, you might need this in your state, you might need it in your county, you might need it in the city, you might need it for your industry. Whatever you need to make sure that you have the necessary licenses. And again, just as I mentioned, the same with online listings, offline listings need to be congruent as well, which means your license, your bank account statements, your utility bills, all of the information on there, including your business name, your business address, and your business phone number, needs to match exactly with what it is online. Now, let me stop here. And I can tell you as an entrepreneur, this stuff is boring. There's no way as an entrepreneur I really care or want to mess with these kind of details. So if you're thinking the same thing, fist bump, you and I are one and the same. Okay, but the reality is once you do this one time, you should never need to do it again. So you need to get your fundability set up the right way. If it's not, take the time to go back and do these things. I'm telling you, I'm literally giving you a blueprint roadmap to the stuff that lenders and credit issuers will not tell you of what's really needed to get approved. So if you literally want the blueprint to approval, this is it, and it's going to involve a bunch of monotonous stuff you don't want to waste your time with. But here's the good thing. Once you do the stuff I'm teaching you one time and are conscientious of it moving forward and make sure that you always use the right address and phone number and everything moving forward, you're good, you're solid, you're fundable. But you got to go back and address this stuff at least one time. Again, as an example, I can't tell you how many people blow this off and go, yeah, I'm good. And then we find basic differences in information they're putting on applications to what's accessible online that's getting them denied. So you got to make sure you address this. Okay, you want to get set up with the business credit reporting agencies. Now you can go to creditsuite.com/reports, and right there you can do a free search to actually check and see if you're set up with any of the reporting agencies. You can also go to creditsuite.com/DUNS, D-U-N-S. You don't even need to put the dashes in there. And I gave you a short link to get your DUNS number set up with Dun & Bradstreet. It's the first thing it's needed with them to get a credit score and called their Paydex score. In order to get a Paydex score, you need to have two things. You need to have your DUNS number set up, 1. You need to have 3 accounts reporting to Dun & Bradstreet, 2. So if you want to see if you're established with Dun & Bradstreet now, go to creditsuite.com/reports. You can do a free search with Equifax, Experian, and Dun & Bradstreet to see if you're set up. And as you build your business credit, that's going to give you a Paydex score once you have that DUNS number set up. Another number you should know about is called your BIN number, your business identification number with Experian. The great news about this is a BIN number will automatically be populated for you the minute you get your first account reporting to Experian. So the key here is to get some business credit accounts that report to Experian. That'll automatically get you your BIN number. If you don't know how to do this, that's cool too. Go to youtube.com/credit suite, or even better, go to creditsuite.com, look at the top right of our page, access our YouTube channel. You'll see we have hundreds and hundreds of videos that teach all kinds of things, including an overview of the steps for you to build business credit and how to get accounts reporting to Experian. Now, A business must be listed with the reporting agencies to have the best chance of getting credit and financing, okay? It can easily be denied if you don't have that, and here's why. Equifax and Experian will automatically populate a credit report for you and give you a failing credit score if you have no credit. As a matter of fact, they have something called the Financial Stability Risk Score. The name varies a little based on each reporting agency, but the one thing that's common is that this score depicts your risk of going bankrupt, and if you have no credit, Experian by default, as an example, will rate you a 5 out of 100, with 100 being the lowest risk of going bankrupt and 0 being the highest. Think about that. But you have no credit, and they automatically give you a 5, with 0 being the worst you can get because you have no credit. Now, the great news is even one account reporting will take you from bad credit to good credit, and I told you about the importance of getting credit that reports to Experian, but this is why you've got to establish credit with the business credit reporting agencies. You don't have a choice. If you don't do this, the credit you will be issued will be failing, and that will greatly inhibit your ability to get credit and financing. Even if you succeed with getting loans and credit lines, the rates you pay will be outrageous compared to what you could have paid because you're being judged based on failing business credit scores when all you have to do is get one account reporting to make those credit scores convert from bad to good. Let's talk about the SBFE. So the Small Business Financial Exchange is a business data agency. They basically gather data from their actual members. They have what's called a give to get strategy. Okay, so the members basically have to give all of your information to other members to get the information from other members. Okay, the members are all lenders, large lenders, Regions, Chase, Bank of America, for example, Wells Fargo. They're all members of SBFE. Then there are vendors of SBFE, which is Dun & Bradstreet, LexisNexis, for example, Experian, Equifax. And the way that the system works is this. SBFE members take all the information and openly share it to other SBFE members. That means when you go to apply for a business loan with Bank of America and you get denied, and then you go into Chase and apply for a business loan with Chase, what you might not know is that Bank of America is giving Chase all of the information you filled out on the initial application. So let's say you went to a Bank of America, you applied, you changed a few things on your application and went to Chase. That's automatically, in a lot of cases, going to get you denied because of potential fraud concerns, because you're applying with Chase with different information than you just applied with Bank of America with. How do they know this? The SBFE, because all that data goes into SBFE, and when you're applying at Chase, they're scrubbing your application data against SBFE data, which then came from that previous lender that you applied with. In this example was Bank of America. So you need to make sure that you are consistent when applying with loans from one bank to the other, because whether you know it or not, now you do know it, one bank has that other bank's information. It becomes very, very, very important. And if you don't have that information match, again, they think it's fraud. They deny the application. Again, over 50% of loan applications are denied because of these incongruencies. And the incongruencies are getting you denied because they think it's fraud. Look, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been exposed to some fraud, right? I mean, I've had all kinds of crazy things happen. If you try to sell a car, you see this, where there's all kinds of scams that take place. Can you imagine the amount of scams that banks are dealing with? The vast majority of stuff that comes across their desk is fraudulent. So they automatically default and think everything is fraud. Okay, and one guaranteed way for them to see fraud is when you're putting information on an application to a bank that's incongruent with other places they're getting your information. And they're getting it from other banks. They're getting it from Dun & Bradstreet gets information from the yellow pages, from your Facebook profile. All the stuff that you put out online is being congregated and gathered and compared against your application data. That's why the majority of applications are denied, because they think it's fraud because of all these incongruencies. Your business credit history, again, you need to get the most favorable funding, and to do that, you've got to show you pay your bills on time. That means a paydex score from Dun & Bradstreet of 80 or higher, which literally depicts that you pay your bills on time. An Equifax credit risk score of 90 or higher, which literally depicts that you pay your bills on time. A good FICO SPSS score, which is primarily driven based on business credit history. FICO's business credit score score actually looks at personal and business credit, and here's how it works. It scrubs the business credit reporting agencies first and calculates that as the majority of its score. Then it looks at your personal credit reports after. Here's the problem. What if you have bad personal credit and no business credit? Then what happens is it automatically looks and makes its only score calculation on personal credit because you don't have business credit that exists. And if your personal credit's bad, then your FICO SBSS score is bad. It is 100% impossible to get an SBA loan if you have no business credit established, because your FICO SBSS score won't even be high enough to get an SBA loan unless you have established business credit. So you have no choice. You have to build business credit if you really want to get the longer term low interest rate loans. People like SBA, or I shouldn't say people, organizations like SBA mandate that. It's required. And again, for Experian, you need to pay your bills on time. That's what's going to get you your best score. Now, if you look at Experian, okay, there are other things that calculate into the score, but 85% of your score is based on payment history. Okay, so again, you need to make sure that you're paying your bills on time. You need to make sure you're paying your bills early. When it comes to business credit scores, it's not like personal credit. In the personal credit world, you need to go 30 days late before they can report you late to the reporting agencies. 30 days. In the business world, you go 1 day late, it counts against you. It's called DBT, days beyond terms. And every business credit report has this DBT indicators of how on average you pay your bills. Are you 1 to 30 days late? Are you 30 to 60 days late? 60 to 90, 90 plus? How late are you on average? The minute you start paying late, it starts working against you. Here's the benefit. The minute you pay early, it works for you. So I always suggest you pay your bills as absolutely early as you possibly can. So again, make sure that you keep those records consistent. Make sure that CRAs, as I mentioned, look at everything. They look at Yelp, they look at Bing, they look at Google. They get information from all these different places, so you need to make sure that's all congruent, because if it doesn't match, it's considered to be potential fraud, okay? Business name, business address, phone number, IRS records, Secretary of State records, business credit reporting agencies, incorporation documents. Okay, you need to make sure that all this information is good, it is congruent. Okay, personal credit quality will be a factor when it comes to business financing, so make sure you get that straightened out. SBA says on their website that you should correct any quote-unquote blemishes on your personal credit report before you even apply to them. Okay, I would think a lot of you, if you look at your personal credit, would consider the negative stuff way more than blemishes, right? So get it corrected. There's all kinds of very legitimate legal credit repair companies out there that work within laws like the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and then hold the credit issuers to the legal standard they are obligated to be adhered to. And when the credit issuer is not meeting those standards, the item by law has to be corrected or removed from your credit report. I can tell you that historically, I found that over 85% of negative items get deleted off credit reports if challenged properly, because they never should have been on the credit report to begin with, because they're being reported inaccurately. So here's what I'm saying. You might have a collection account and raise your hand and go, yeah, that was me, I did that. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the collection account was really yours or not. What matters is that that collection account is being reported 100% accurately as it's required by law. If it's not reported 100% accurately as it's supposed to be by law, it has to be removed from the report. That's what the law says. So what I found in, I don't know, now 15,000 credit reports that I've looked at in my life, I can tell you that what happens is, even though you might have had the account, there's little indicators on that account and how it's reported that are typically inaccurate that hurt your score more than it should. And that's the stuff that when corrected and removed, it has a serious impact on your score. So again, you want to build good personal credit and have anything challenged by a professional company. I'm not that guy. I don't deal with personal credit. Plenty of them out there that will help you. You can even get in touch with us and we can give you a referral. But you also need to make sure you're building good business credit as well, especially if you have personal credit issues. Like, at least if you have good business credit, your personal credit's bad, you at least can offset part of that risk. But if you have no business credit and bad personal credit, man, you got two major strikes against you. So work on improving that personal credit and work on establishing the business credit as well. Okay, so again, then there's another kind of financing out there called unsecured business financing that will help you build business credit if you have good personal credit. You don't need cash flow or collateral to get approved. Okay, all it does is basically look at personal credit quality if you are a guarantor. Okay, so again, this is really crucial. This can help you build business credit if you have good personal credit. So that's a good option that could work for you there as well. So to recap, take control of how likely you are to get a loan. That's what Fundability all is about. Having a proper business address, phone number, fax number, website, email addresses are all very, very important. They're essential. Getting your number set up, getting your IRS, your EIN set up with the IRS is important. Making sure that your credit is in line. Get your personal credit fixed if it's damaged. Build your business credit. It becomes essential for so many different reasons to get the most amount of money for your business at the best terms. Pay your bills on time, okay? All these things become very important. And probably one of the most important things I'm going to teach you today is make sure your information is congruent. Your offline listings, like your bank statements, your utility statements, your licenses need to have the same information as what you're putting on the application. And so does your online listings. Everything from Yellow Pages to Bing to Yahoo to Google and everywhere in between, everything needs to be congruent. So, we didn't touch on 125 factors. We touched on some of them. So if you'd like an actual fundability consultation, give us a ring, 877-600-2487. We can do some of these searches for you at no cost, give you an idea of how fundable your business is, tell you actually the kind of financing you can qualify for now. We can even outline a few different options for you to build business credit as well. Our number is 877-600-info@creditsuite.com. We also have a great business credit building guide at creditsuite.com/EIN. And if you got value from this training, well then go to creditsuite.com and look at the top right of our page. At the top right of our page, you'll find all of our social media links. We go live on YouTube and Facebook every week, and you can actually engage with us. Like here on YouTube, Facebook, you're able to actually comment with us and engage in real time. We have daily tips on places like Twitter and Instagram. We even have a podcast. It's a very popular podcast on iTunes that you can listen on the go and get all kinds of information that will help you build a stellar business as well as become very fundable and have the best chance of getting approved for the most amount of money. So I'm going to wrap this up. Again, if we could be of any service, let us know, 877-600-2487, or email us, info@creditsuite.com, for that free fundability consultation where we can walk through some of these things with you. And if we can help you with anything else, just reach out to us, visit our website, check out our social media links. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, like and subscribe. And if you're actually listening on our podcast, then leave us a good review if this made sense to you and if you got some benefit out of it. Thanks, everybody. And I will see you next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern here on YouTube. And then you'll see this shortly after available on our podcast as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.